What you're seeing now is a disagreement between agencies saying, you know what, they should have, and the other saying, no, they shouldn't. That has nothing to do with me.
And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Democratic presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton is once again on the defensive about her use of private emails for official business as Secretary of State. Usage that may have involved improperly sending and receiving classified government data. Things got a little testy, as you're about to see in this exchange with Fox News reporter Ed Henry, when he asked her whether she wiped the data disk on her personal email server.
Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something? Well, no. I don't know how it works digitally at all. I do not have any. Ed, I know you want to make a point, and I can just repeat what I have said. In order to be as cooperative as possible, we have turned over the server. They can do whatever they want to with the server to figure out what's there or what's not there.
Well, guys, is Hillary starting to crack under the pressure of this email controversy? She got pretty out of sorts during that press conference.
Look, for starters, I talk about optics a lot in my columns and on this show. And here's the thing. If you're running the Hillary Clinton campaign, don't dress her in orange jumpsuits.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
You know what?
Because that's a big old bowl of wrong.
That's not my thing, but I take your point completely. Yeah.
Especially if you're going to minimize crimes, which is what criminals do.
Yep, there it is.
Because everybody in prison is innocent.
She doesn't look too bad. I don't know.
Everybody in prison is innocent. You know, they're all innocent, they say, you know. And she's sitting here minimizing what she's done, and she's wearing orange. It just looks like Shawshank Redemption, you know. The talk show.
Noah, you want to comment on her clothing?
I'll actually pass on commenting on her regular pantsuit choice. That display was as contemptuous as anything I've seen a politician do with a reporter, the kind of behavior that you have with a reporter. She resents this process so deeply, and she can barely contain her irritation over being questioned over what is essentially a criminal matter at this point, and really a dereliction of her responsibility and the jeopardization of American national security.
But is it resentment, or is it just an effort to try and get away from the conversation?
I think it's twofold. I think it's a theatrical attempt to project to her supporters that this is baseless, that she's a victim, that she's being persecuted, and it's also her unrestrained contempt for the press, which has been very thinly veiled over the course of this presidential campaign.
Well, guess what, guys? It's not working very well. That CNN poll that came out today showing that Hillary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump is now just down to 6 points also asked voters about the email controversy. This is what they said. 56% believe that she did something wrong. That's up from 51% in March. So is this feeding into her overall drop in the polls to Republicans and her Democratic rival Bernie Sanders? We know it is. I mean, over half of those polled believe that she did something wrong. Jonathan, how do you survive that as a candidate for anything?
I just think she's on a downward slope. And what scares me, though, is that she's still getting that high of a rating when she's done something that's obviously criminal, and the guy that's creeping up on her is a socialist. What's wrong with the Democratic Party here?
That's actually an interesting question, and it's not just the Democratic Party in those things. Why does she still have that high of a number? I mean, if you look at it, you know, in the larger picture, she's dropping. She's at her lowest numbers, but it is still a pretty high number.
I mean, there's got to be some other Democrats.
If over half the people think she did something wrong, and in this case, something wrong very well might mean having broken the law, having committed felonies when it comes to our classified data, why is she still winning?
They would take a candidate that has committed a felony or a criminal act over Republicans controlling all three chambers.
You think that's it?
Yes, yeah. You've said this before in the show. It's more about voting.
Must be right.
You're voting against the other party more than you're voting for your candidate. And if they had any viable alternative on their bench, they would ditch her in a heartbeat, but they realize they don't until at least Joe Biden jumps in, or Mike Bloomberg that I wrote yesterday. That's when you'd see them jump ship. But in the meantime, they're clinging to hope that she could somehow survive this because she's their only hope right now.
Their only choice right now. Noah, just there was I think it happened last night. Donald Trump said that he thought that Hillary could get up to 20 years in jail for what he believes she's done. Not that Donald Trump would ever exaggerate. But how do you explain, and how would he explain, that this person who he thinks should be getting 20 years in jail is still beating him in the polls?
I think it might be a little bit simpler than the grand civic nature of American public who wants to actually see divided government. I think it's August of an off year, and a lot of people just haven't tuned into the process yet. And I also think, by the way, if Republicans weren't in this cul-de-sac of debating the 14th Amendment, and we're actually on message and talking about message-related stuff, there would be absolute outright panic in the Democratic Party and a push for her to drop out of the race. I think you're going to see that eventually pretty soon, because Martin O'Malley is screaming that we're not talking about anything but emails. Everybody's starting to realize that they can't get their message out. It's all emails all the time, and that's eventually going to start to wear on Democrats who want to actually make their case to the public.
He's got a good point, Jonathan. He's got a good point, because the only, the people who I see talking about, aside from geeks like us, this whole 14th Amendment thing, are angry members of the base who are on their Twitter accounts, who are saying, no, the court, I mean, they never meant that, all this crazy stuff.
Right.
So is Noah right? Is it just that it's so early? All we're picking up are the showbiz aspects and the people who are committed, and it's not real yet?
I think that could be the case. Plus, you got to look at who's being polled. They're polling people who right now are involved in watching these things. Those are people who are going to support Hillary Clinton because they hate the Republicans so much. So the polls, I think, right now are even kind of skewed because of that.
Polls,
because of what.
Yeah, I think
Noah's
that's
saying.
probably true, because polls, Joe, they're always skewed this early on. Right?
Who benefits right now is Bernie Sanders. It's been a 20-point swing in 1 month. She's lost 10 points. He's gained 10 points.
A socialist.
It's true. The question is, will there be any other candidates in the Democratic primary? We'll hopefully find out soon. In the meantime, let us know what you think about this email server mess. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let us know. Coming up next, Donald Trump is closing in on Hillary Clinton, and so is Bernie Sanders, but we talked about that, but we're going to talk about it some more. This is the Daily Wrap.